This is a story about a little hedgehog who wanted to become a detective. It's called Pricles Turns Detective. Prickles was born into a large family of hedgehogs who lived in a spacious wooden hedgehog house in a large garden on the edge of a small town. He had an older brother named Spike, a younger brother named Spock, and two sisters, Daisy and Maisie. Prickles got to know lots of different animal friends on his travels. Some of them lived in the town and some in the surrounding fields. He loved to watch detective films on the television and always wanted to become one when he grew older. When there was a puzzle or problem to be solved, Prickles would try to do it. His friends were amazed at his detective skills. Early one evening, after the hedgehogs had woken from their daytime sleep, Meg and the little wood mouse ran into their home and started yelling that there had been a robbery down in the field below, and could Prickles help to solve it. The hedgehog family were about to go out hunting for some food, but Prickles was curious to find out more and stayed behind with his brother Spike to listen to what Megan had to say. "Now, Megan, what exactly did you see and hear?" "Well, Prickles, Mrs. Badger was walking backwards and forwards outside the badger set, and she looked very cross. She told me that her jewellery had been taken and that she'd been sound asleep at the time. She hadn't heard anyone come or go inside her rooms, and none of the other badgers had heard anything either. I'll go and visit her and see if I can help in any way, and I'll take Spike with me. Would you like to come along and help too, Megan?" "Oh, yes, please. I can always make her a cup of tea when I'm not helping." "Good idea. Then let's go and pay Mrs. Badger a visit." The three of them walked through some gardens and across the fields to the badger set. Mrs. Badger was sitting at the doorway with her paws under her chin, looking very sad. She looked up and was pleased to see Prickles, Spike, and Megan walking towards her. "Oh, thank goodness you've come back, Megan, and I see you brought Prickles and Spike with you." Prickles suggested, "Let's all go inside and talk about what happened. Perhaps I will be able to catch the thief. Is it all right if Spike has a good look round to see if there are any clues about who it was that took your jewellery? Please show us where you kept them." "It was over there in the side cupboard in a black box with a rose painted on it. Please have a good look round our home, and I hope you find something to help." Spike looked around the large room, sniffing the carpets and furniture. He found some fur that he put into a clean paper bag, and then he noticed some unusual narrow scratch marks on the cupboard door. They certainly did not come from the badgers, as they have large feet with big claws, and these were made by a thief who has little feet with small claws. Megan went over to Mrs. Badger and said, "Would you like me to make you a nice cup of tea?" "That would be lovely." Afterwards, Prickles and Megan went outside to have a good look around. Prickles found some black and white feathers nearby and collected them up, while Megan went a bit further away and was looking underneath an old oak tree, where she found some black cloth stuffed inside a hole at the bottom of its trunk. She ran across to Prickles and told him what she'd found, and he went to the tree and found the material, which turned out to be an empty black cotton bag. Underneath it there were some acorns and a few grey hairs. He looked up into the branches and saw two grey squirrels sitting there looking back at him. "Hello, you two. I've not seen you around here before. You haven't seen anyone entering the badger set earlier today, have you?" "No, we haven't," said the two squirrels together, shrugging their shoulders and turning their paws upwards. They ran further up the tree, stopped for a moment, and looked back down at Prickles. then disappeared into their home made of twigs, which is known as a dray. Prickles thought that their behaviour was a bit strange, but he continued his search. In another tree there was a magpie nest, and while he was looking up, 2 crows flew down to meet him. "Are you looking for some jewellery?" they asked. "Yes, some has been stolen from the badger set." One of the crows pointed upwards with one of his large black wings and said, "Well, we've just seen some up in the nest up there. If I give you this black bag, would you put the jewellery into it and bring it down here to me?" "Yes, we can do that." The crows flew up to the nest and emptied its contents into the bag, and while they were there they noticed some feathers lying around. They flew back down, each crow holding onto a handle of the bag with their large beaks, and dropped it just before they landed. They told Prickles about the feathers that they'd seen as well. He thanked them for their help, and they flew off to a group of tall trees near the farm gate to settle down for the night. Prickles returned to the badger set and gave the bag to Mrs. Badger, who looked inside. "This bag doesn't belong to me, and the jewellery doesn't either. The thief must be breaking in and taking treasures from other places around here. Who do you think it is, Prickles?" "Probably the magpie, but I'm not sure yet. Spike thinks that whoever took yours had grey fur and scratched the furniture, so that can't have been a bird." "We all have grey fur in this house, but we can't climb to the top of trees," said Mrs. Badger. "I will definitely look into this for you, but I must get back home and find something to eat. I'll come back and see you tomorrow evening. Come on, Spike, let's go hunting, and then we'll go home." "I'll come too. Goodbye," said Megan. Megan found some seeds to eat on the way. Then she went back to her home underneath the wooden shed where she lived in the garden next door to Prickles and his family. She was very tired and so curled up and went to sleep. Prickles and Spike found some worms to eat. Then they went inside their home and slept soundly. They left their home the following afternoon to do some more detective work and asked the local animals if they'd seen or heard anything about the robbery. Later, Barney the barn owl flew down and landed on a fence post just in front of them. He waggled his head from side to side and then stared straight at them with his big black eyes. "I heard that you've been asking for some information about the robbery yesterday. I saw Freddie Fox sniffing round the badger set, and he picked up a black box from the ground nearby and ran off with it." "Thanks for telling us that," said Spike. "Where does he live?" "I'll take you if you like," said Barney. Barney flew ahead of Prickles and Spike, who were running along as quickly as they could until they reached Freddie's home 2 fields away. Spike rang the bell. "Who's that disturbing my late afternoon sleep?" said Freddie as he sleepily got up from his armchair and walked across the room to open the door. "It's Spike and Prickles. You might have heard of us. We live just up the hill from here and are investigating a burglary. Would you tell us where you were yesterday?" "Yes. I was going across the fields and found a nice black box with a painted rose on it, so I brought it home." "And was there anything inside it when you opened it?" "No, nothing at all. I thought it would make a nice gift for Mrs. Fox." "Well, it belonged to Mrs. Badger, and she kept her jewellery inside it. There is a thief around, and we want to catch him." "Sorry to hear that. You can give this back to Mrs. Badger and tell I'm very sorry that I took it. Perhaps you can do that yourself if you would come back and help to sniff out the thief with your extra special nose skills." "Yes, of course I will. Let's go now then." The 2 hedgehogs, Fox and Owl, went back to the badger set, where Freddie had said sorry, and Mrs. Badger was so pleased to get her box back. Freddie sniffed the cabinet and scratch marks on the door where the jewellery was taken, and he followed a scent trail that led to the oak tree. "It must have been the squirrels that live up there," he said. The squirrels saw them coming, and there was a lot of movement up in the tree-top. Spike thought they had better get the crows back again to search up in the old oak tree. He wandered off and found them sitting on a branch in the tall trees. He called to them, and they swooped down and landed just in front of him. "Hello, crows. Would you fly up to the oak tree again and have another look around for any jewelry for us, please? And while you're there, will you take a look inside the squirrel's home?" "Yes, of course we can," they said, as they spread out their large black wings and took off into the breeze. Prickles saw them land in the oak tree and enter the squirrel's dray. The two squirrels said that they didn't have anything to do with the robbery, and the crows found nothing inside. They decided to fly over to the magpie nest, where they saw some more jewelry mixed in with a few feathers. They flew down and landed by Prickles. "We didn't find anything where the squirrels lived, but the magpie's nest was full of jewelry again. The strange thing is, though, we have heard that Maggie Magpie has gone away for a few days to look after her aunt, who isn't very well at the moment, and no one has seen her around. Do you want us to bring down the jewelry from the nest?" "Yes, please," said Prickles. When the crows brought the jewelry down, Spike looked at it and noticed some grey hairs stuck in one of the necklaces. He pointed it out to Prickles, who said, "I know that I found some magpie feathers yesterday, but I am beginning to suspect who the thieves really are." "Oh, do tell us," said Spike, the crows, and Freddie Fox. "I think it's those two naughty squirrels up there. They pretended that they hadn't done anything, but it looks like it was their scratch marks and fur inside the badger's set. They must have planted the feathers outside Mrs. Badger's home to blame Maggie Magpie, and then kept moving the jewelry to her nest each time we visited. Let's go back to Mrs. Badger and see if this is her jewelry." She was waiting for them at the door and invited them all inside. It was her jewelry, and she was so pleased to get it back. She thanked them all and asked if any of them knew who the other jewelry belonged to. The crows said that they'd heard that Henrietta Hare had had some taken the same day, so Prickles and Spike visited her and took her jewelry back. When they looked around Henrietta's home, they found similar grey fur and scratch marks inside, and Maggie Magpie feathers outside. Prickles and Spike went back to the squirrels, who were seen dragging another bag full of jewelry back to their nest. "Caught you in the act after you have been stealing more jewelry. Now where did you steal that from?" "We took it from Mrs. Mole's home when she was out." "Well, I think you had better take it back to where you stole it from, and we are coming with you." The squirrels realized how unkind they had been and returned the stolen goods back to Mrs. Mole. They said sorry to everyone for what they had done and promised never to steal anything again. Prickles and Spike were pleased with the result and went back to their home to tell the others what had happened. The next day Mrs. Badger sent everyone an invite to a party that she was having, to say a big thank you to them all.